For me, there have been times when the sound of silence was deafening. When people were speaking, but not really talking. When people were heard, but not truly listened to. When the union of communion that comes with true communication was missing. When people wrote songs of their life, but the stories were never shared. Their creative voice was buried in the rubble of just getting by and surviving. I experienced enough of those moments while growing up that it left an indelible scar in my heart. And the theme continued in my adult life. I and others said words that were just pregnant with meaning, yet no curiosity followed. When I felt so shut down that I couldn't even hear my heartbeat. When I was there, but not fully present. When I was in a crowded room, but felt alone. Can anyone relate to what I'm sharing? Yeah. So, in these moments, I did not dare to disturb the sound of silence until now. My new book that's coming out next month, which is entitled Authentic Collaboration, A Bridge to Meaningful Connection, is an attempt to do just that, to support people in breaking through the silence, to develop the art of authentic collaboration and relating in a healthy way. Because I see authentic collaboration and healthy relationship building as synonymous. My intention is to support people in being seen, heard, and appreciated. So, with this as the backdrop, my book was born at the intersection of relationship grief, a need for meaningful connection, and a desire for inner coherence, or you might want to say unity. I've so longed to ramp up my own bridge building skill to better respond to the chasm that divides people and to that feeling of separation that I think we all can relate to from time to time. I've often wondered, how is it that I can reconcile the paradox that here we are as separate beings with a separate body, and yet so profoundly interconnected in the web of life? I mean, it's just such an inherent contradiction, isn't it? To imagine how self-sovereign we are and how autonomous we are, and yet how so deeply we long to belong to our community. So in my writing, I also wanted to explore the concept of ayni, A-Y-N-I, ayni. I learned this concept about 12 years ago when I was studying shamanism. And the concept comes from the Andean tradition, the Laika wisdom tradition of the high Andes. And it translates directly to mean sacred reciprocity. It's about balancing giving and receiving with all our relations. So ayni, put another way, is about coming into right relationship with self, others, and earth. For each is a mirror to the others. So I'll give you an example. The degree of, maybe you've heard people say oh, I can trust other people, but I can't really trust myself. Or I can't really trust life to support me, or earth, because earth is life, they're interchangeable. But I can really trust others. That actually is a misnomer, because one is a reflection of the other. The degree to which we can trust with others is correlated to the degree in which we can trust ourselves and earth. Another example would be domination and control. So how it is that we try to control other people is a mirror to how it is that we try to control ourselves and how we dominate over Earth. And unfortunately, we see a lot of evidence of that in the world, don't we? With how it is that we are degrading our environment and how it is that we diminish the biodiversity on our planet. So there's a lot of domination and control energies going on. So with that, I decided I really want to explore this relationship of Aini and coming in a right relationship with self, others, and Earth, because it's just the perfect braid. And I see that interweaving. And I'm also intrigued by how the Andean people, even today, will talk about Aini as the path to happiness. They say that the peace and the joy that is our birthright comes from Aini. Whereas here in the West, we're actually conditioned, many of us are conditioned to believe the opposite, that our job in our life is to pursue individual happiness, hoping that healthier relationships flow from that. And the Andean people flip that. So fascinating. Anyway, I began writing this book in early April 2020. So here it is, pandemic time, and our society comes to a virtual shutdown, lockdown, literally. And interestingly, something in me unlocked during that lockdown, whereby I consider that time a gift. And I say that on purpose because for me to be able to step out of that cycle of busyness that tends to saturate our culture was suffocating for me at times. So it was a true blessing that I was able to step out of that and to just be with nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to see. And it was like, oh, I could just sink into beingness and out of doingness. So with that, I started writing and writing and writing and writing. That's all I did, it seemed, for 3.5 months when I finished my first draft. Little did I know at that time that it would take another almost 2 years before I would finish one revision after another to get it ready for publication next month. And quite frankly, to get myself ready to bring this message out to the world, because this book held a lot of healing for me. Now, that is actually one of the lessons of this book for me, and that is space. Not only did I gift myself with a lot of time to write and reflect and to heal and to learn and to grow, but also, I was able to really think about how it is that I want to show up and relate differently with other people in a more heart-centered way. I really yearn to be as fully present as I can with self, others, and Earth. Because after all, full presence and groundedness, as Sharon said, is the theme for this month, I believe is our greatest gift that we can give others. So with that as the backdrop, I'd love to give you a brief overview as to what this book is about. So I brought along 2 infographics, and I'm not quite sure how much clarity you can see there, but that's okay. I'll just reference it here. The whole book can be summarized in these 2 infographics. And my intention, by the way, with the book and with these graphics is quite simple. I really want to catalyze a new conversation about healthy relationship building and collaboration. So before I lose that thought, you'll notice that there's a QR code here at the bottom. So at the end of the service, if you feel inspired, feel free to come with your phones and scan that. You can download these infographics, post it on your refrigerator, put it on your work bulletin boards, or in a newsletter, whatever, to kickstart a new conversation. Yeah. So why collaboration, you might be wondering? Well, most people, when they think of the word collaboration, will come up with the phrase, yeah, it's about working together. and yet what I have found from my experience of working with the UN, as well as businesses and government with social profit groups, is that working together and collaborating is really about how could we tolerate differences and put up with each other to get the job done. And I'm really curious about how it is that we can elevate this paradigm to a whole new level of what's possible in our relationships. So why? Because the how of relationship building affects the tenor and the texture of collaboration. And as far as I'm concerned, here's the big why. The quality of our relationships affects the quality of our lives. So with that, I'm thinking about, collaboration, which I see is so, we do this, we collaborate all the time at home, at work, in community, on the world stage. And yet, how many of us really stop and pause and think about, how do I work with other people? And it's kind of like wallpaper, it's there, but invisible. And so I'm really interested in how is it that we can hold diversity, which I know is a core principle of the Unitarian family, in a different way so that we truly can experience the value and the beauty and possibility that comes with diversity, that's inherent in collaboration. I also think collaboration is humanity's best hope for a viable, sustainable future. Because of all the relationship building approaches that I'm aware of, there are none others that hold the ethos of mutual gain and a we orientation that really steps out of that us versus them mindset by way of looking at the picture as, yeah, we're all in this together with shared ownership, shared commitment, and a willingness to hold all needs with care. Like, how do we do that? So, it's a concept that even goes beyond cooperation and coordination, which is often, again, let's put up with each other to get the job done, or the task, or the procedure. Collaboration is a more holistic concept that invites us to bring all of who we are to the table, even our vulnerabilities, by way of co-creating a higher quality of connection to address our complex challenges in our communities, in our workplaces, and even at home. I think it's fair to say that there's a lot riding on how we solution find together in this world. So with this top infographic here, that is the vision of authentic collaboration in a nutshell. So I'm just going to point to, I don't know if you can still hear me, the overarch here, thank you, is interdependence. Now that is a big concept, interdependence, which, to me, it's an easy concept to understand that we're all interconnected in the web of life. Yet when push comes to shove, my question to you would be, how willing are you to really lean into intimacy that comes with interdependence at a whole new level, to really rely on other people? I know for me, it's very challenging. It's one of my big growing edges. So, excuse me, that is the arch. And then from there, the foundation of the bridge is respecting self and others. Again, respect is like a motherhood apple pie concept. We all talk about wanting respect, but when is the last time you stop long enough to ask someone, what does respect really look like for you and for you and for you? Because what I've come to understand is that respect shows up very differently for each of us. And I added respect for self and others because it's that mutuality that tends to get us stuck sometimes, because so often we're caught in that either or dynamic, that I'll respect myself, but your needs, no, not today. And others is about including the natural world. So you can see that this bridge, which is a tide arch bridge, by the way, similar to one of our blue water bridges, not a coincidence, is that it has a 3-lane highway, or 3-lane roadway, I should say, going over the bridge. 1 lane for self, 1 for others, and 1 for earth. And as you can see, each of those lanes is separated by a dotted line because we crisscross, between our relationship with self, others, and earth all the time. So, and all are valid and all are of value in helping us to practice authentic collaboration with all our relations. And then you can see the 3 power pillars that uphold the bridge are on the level of self-empowerment, on the level of others, sharing power, which is a huge concept. And then on the level of earth, co-creating vision by way of ensuring we leave enough space to listen to our intuition, which is the voice of life speaking through us when we're co-creating with other people. So with that, the tide arch bridge, which by the way is not a fantastic metaphor, the bridge, right? I mean, it's just so beautiful as an architecture, but as a symbol of connecting 2 separate land masses in order to bridge the chasm that divides people. I just love the structure of it. The vertical ties that uphold the traffic flow of the bridge, you can see the word relate built into those cables. And that stands for the 6 guiding principles that I offer as a practice to authentically collaborate. And I'm not going to read them all off, but essentially they're common concepts, again, that I invite people to deeply reflect on. And I have a chapter in my book dedicated to every principle. They're around, how to empathize by connecting with our heart. How is it that we can deepen trust with self, others, and earth? How is it that we can take our authenticity to a whole new level? So on that concept of authenticity, I named this bridge Authentic Collaboration because authenticity is a really tricky concept in that some of us feel that we're always speaking authentically, while others consider it to be rare. I mean, authenticity is that universal need to be able to step out of our roles and our masks and our personas and our roles and our titles to truly feel safe and accepted, to truly be who we are. When is the last time in relationship that you remember feeling embraced, cradled, and accepted for your vulnerable heart truth? I would suggest it's more rare than we think. I think it's a universal growing edge, actually. I know for me, a lot of my adult years were spent walking around connecting from the neck up. I mean, literally, I was like a walking head, where it was really tough for me to bridge build from my mind to my gut intelligence and into my heart, to really sink into my heart intelligence. It still is a practice for me. So with respect to the next infographic, which is below here, collaboration comparison, how do you relate? Well, as you can see, this is another 3-lane roadway by way of me trying to tease apart the distinctions between how from my life experience, how we typically collaborate, which is based on the separation paradigm of either I'm better than you, or I'm less than you, or I'm not as good as, the inferior superior dynamic plays out, or that somehow my needs are more important than your needs, or my pattern, which is accommodation, which is I consistently in the past have accommodated such that my needs came second to other people. And let me tell you, that's a fast ticket to a slow burn of anger. Doesn't work. So all that goes to say, I would love to invite you to reflect on what your life experience has been around collaboration. The words I've chosen may or may not resonate with you. And the last point I'll make about that chart is that, again, each lane is connected by a dash because we're always crisscrossing back and forth from an authentic way of collaborating to the typical way of collaborating. Why? Because it depends on the context, the relationship, the culture that we're in, the environment and the history that we have with people. All of that plays into how it is that we show up and connect with people. So I think what I'll do is end with a story that to me encapsulates the distinction between our conventional way of collaborating and the authentic way. And that's this is a story by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is someone who I have deep, deep respect for. I had the honor of actually spending a week with him in Plum Village in France about maybe 14 years ago. And I remember Tay, he was called Tay, which means teacher. Tay stood up one day and he said, as a young man, I was not mechanically inclined. And yet he said one day, a friend of his whose roof collapsed needed some roofing help. So he said, hey, Tay, would you mind coming over and helping me out and fixing this roof? And Tay said, well, it's not really my cup of tea, but nonetheless, I'd love to help you. So he shows up and puts on that tool belt, gets out the hammer and the nail, climbs up the ladder, and with the very first blow of the hammer, instead of hitting the nail, he hits his thumb. And immediately he notices his left hand goes to his heart and his right hand goes over and he says, I'm so, so sorry. Please forgive me. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it was after that Tay realized there wasn't 1 minute of hesitation of the left hand judging the right hand and saying, how clumsy are you? I mean, how stupid can you be? And how dare you, stop hurting me and get away from me. There was none of that. It was an immediate receiving of love and compassion and an immediate giving of love and compassion. And so Tay challenged all of us to reflect on how it is that we can step out of that separation mindset that's imbued with trauma and a lot of hurt and pain over the years, and instead move into mindful response to give and receive in an authentic, caring way. So with that, I'm actually going to leave you with an opportunity to practice, if you wish, how to practice authentic relating and collaborative bridge building with others, with self, others, and earth. So on the level of self, I'd like to invite you to first of all, carve out the time and space. So again, there's that space word, to bring your own hands to your heart and to ask yourself, your heart, the question, if I really knew myself in this moment, what would you have me know? And just wait and see what emerges. Whatever arises, practice loving and accepting that. On the level of others, which we can do right after this service with our coffee and tea and refreshments section, where we can ask someone, how are you really? And just wait. And on the level of earth, we're blessed with a beautiful lake and a river. I invite you to go down there, sit at the river's edge or in a park, sit next to a tree and ask nature this question. How can I deepen my connection with you on a whole new level? You, earth, my beloved source, show me the way. And if you set a sincere intention, I promise you, magic will unfold. So each of these bridge building questions requires curiosity, compassion, and courage to be with the sound of silence. Perhaps in our practice, one day we'll realize we are the bridge.